Greetings, Doctor. We are from Group 7. Today, we will be presenting on inflation. This is our team members. The first, KAVITHA, Chong, LYNN, and the second is me, Tanjun Wei, and the third is Chai Man Chun, and the fourth is ALIF, AQASYAH bin ZAHARI, and the last one is Dr Siti. This is our team members. The first, for our introduction. Inflation is the sustained rise in the general price level of goods and services, which reduce the purchasing power of money. It affects both consumer and businesses by increasing living costs and operational expenses. The main type include the demand pull, cost push, and intrinsic inflation. It is typically measured using the Consumer Price Index (CPI). As of March 2025, Malaysia's inflation rate was 1.4%, with higher increase seen in food 2.3%, housing 2%, and the restaurant services 2.9%. Understanding inflation is a vital for effective policy making and informed financial decisions. And the picture below is the graph for CPI, Consumer Price Index of Malaysia in 2025.
Greeting doctor, my name is Chai Man Chun, entry number 299799. I will explain how inflation affects in engineering economics. Let's start with investment analysis. When engineer and manager evaluate a project, they must compare the present value of future cash flow. If a project promised 100,000 ringgit in 5 years, but inflation is 4% annually, that money will only be worth about 82,000 today. That's because over time, inflation reduced the purchasing power of money. So if we ignore inflation, we might think a project is more profitable than it really is. This is why we discount future value using a rate that includes inflation. Next is budgeting. When preparing a budget for material, labor, or machines, we must also consider inflation. For example, if we plan to buy steel for 50,000 ringgit today, but the price increased by 6% over the year, the same amount will cost 53,000 ringgit next year. That's called cost escalation. If not included, the project may run over budget. So it is important to adjust cost estimate regularly. Okay, now let's look at nominal and real interest rate. The nominal interest rate is what you usually see from banks. It includes inflation, but the real interest rate shows the actual increase in the value of your money after removing the inflation. For instance, if you earn 8% on a fixed deposit, but inflation is 4%, so the real return is only around 4%. This tells us how much your money really grows. To calculate this correctly, we use the Fisher equation. The Fisher equation helps us find the relationship between nominal rate, real rate, and inflation rate. The formula is 1 plus nominal rate equal to 1 plus real rate multiplied 1 plus inflation rate. For example, if the nominal rate is 10% and inflation is 6%, so the real rate is about 3.77%. This equation is very useful in planning investment, budgets, and estimating future costs accurately. It helps avoid overestimating return and ensure the value of money is correctly considered in every financial decision.
Greetings, Doctor. I'm Kavitha, and now I'll be presenting about real issues on inflation in engineering economics. My focus will be on how inflation affects construction and material costs, delay in project implementation, and the decline in purchasing power and capital investment. One of the most visible effects on inflation is the increase in prices for construction materials. In Malaysia, the Construction Materials Price Index reported annual increases, which is 3.7% for cement, 5.2% for bitumen, and 6.8% for steel bars in 2023. Projects like the Pan-Borneo Highway has experienced repeated budget overruns because cost estimates couldn't keep up with inflation. This highlights the importance of including inflation forecasts in early project planning. Inflation doesn't just affect costs, it also affects project timelines. Rising expenses can lead to cash flow problems, forcing project managers to delay or scale down activities. A prime example is the MI3 Circle Line project in Malaysia. Initially estimated at 31 billion, its costs were revised upwards and the start date was postponed from 2023 to 2027. Such delays reduce the return on investment and overall project efficiency. Another major issue is the decline in the real value of capital investment. As the value of the Malaysian ringgit drops, currently around RM4.70 to the US dollar, it becomes more expensive to import essential engineering equipment. For instance, a CNC machine tool that cost RM86,000 last year now exceeds RM94,000. This significantly impacts SMEs who often have tighter budgets and less flexibility.
Greetings, Doctor. I'm Zersin and I'll be presenting our case study. So, for our case study, XYZ company is considering an investment project that requires an initial outlay of RM10K. The project is expected to generate consistent annual cash inflows of RM3K for 5 years. To evaluate the project's financial viability, we consider both the nominal and real interest rates. The nominal interest rate is given at 8%, while the inflation rate is at 3%. To compute the real interest rate, we apply the Fisher equation, which is 1 plus the real rate equals to 1 plus nominal rate divided by 1 plus inflation rate. By substituting the values, we get 1 plus R equals to 1.08 divided by 1.03, which is 1.049, which means the real interest rate is approximately 4.9%. Next, we calculate the net present value, which is also NPV, using the nominal interest rate of 8%, assuming the 3K cash inflows are nominal. Using the present value of annuity formula, the NPV is calculated as follows. NPV equals to negative RM10K plus RM3K times 3.993, and the answer will be RM1,979.30. We then calculate the NPV using the real interest rate of 4.9%. Assuming the 3K represent real cash flows, adjusted for inflation, the formula becomes NPV equals to negative RM10K plus 3K times 4.341, and the answer will be RM3024.41. In conclusion, the NPV using the nominal interest rate is RM1979.13, while the NPV using the real interest rate is 3024.41 ringgit. Both approaches are valid as long as they are used consistently with the type of cash flow, nominal with nominal and real with real. However, calculating NPV using the real cash flows or the real interest rate offers a clearer understanding of the project's true value in today's purchasing power.
Greetings, Doctor. My name is ALIF ZAHARI, and I will do the conclusion. So, for conclusion, inflation significantly impacts engineering economic by eroding purchasing power of money over time, influencing crucial decisions such as project cost, estimation, budget planning, investment analysis, such as project cost estimation, budget planning, investment analysis, and target setting. Failing to account for inflation can lead to underestimated future costs and overestimated returns, resulting in financial difficulties and delays. Utilizing tools like the Consumer Price Index, nominal and real interest rate, and Fisher equation help engineers make accurate financial calculations, mitigate risks, avoid cost overrun, and ensure long-term viability of investments, evidenced by the challenges faced by projects like Malaysia Borneo Highway and MRT3 Circle Line. due to inflationary pressure. And now for the recommendations to effectively combat the impact of inflation on engineering projects. It is recommended to implement several key strategies. First, always use real interest rate in financial planning to ensure cash flow and return reflect actual purchasing power, preventing overly optimistic forecasts. Second, incorporate inflation index clauses into contracts for long-term projects. This is to protect all parties from unexpected cost increase by adjusting project expense based on recognized inflation indices like the CPI or PPI. Third, regularly update budgets and cost estimates to reflect current market conditions, minimizing the risk of cost overruns and project delays. Finally, integrate inflation prediction into project risk management to enhance decision-making and financial resilience. By adopting these measures, engineers and firms can make smarter financial choices, control project costs, and safeguard their long-term investments against inflationary pressures.